Hello and welcome to today's webinar on using Compass Plus effectively to support vulnerable groups. My name is Peter McKinney. I'm a Compass Plus consultant and I lead on the delivery of our virtual training offer. Now, as always, everyone, we have your best interest at heart when delivering Compass Plus training, and we want to make sure that you are well equipped with the knowledge and expertise to use Compass Plus effectively to support vulnerable groups. Now, as such, we'll run through quite a bit of content today, but please don't worry. If you've joined the webinar today, you will be sent a copy of the recording after the session, so you can then review this at your own pace later if you need to. Now, the recording will be added to YouTube. It'll be chapterized too, so that you can then quickly jump to the relevant part of the webinar that you need to watch again. So we have the webinar support and resource. It's designed to help embed your learning from today's session. Now, that's available in both PDF and Word format from the Compass Plus Help Centre. And if you're joining the webinar today, you can ask questions at any time during the session by using the Q&A function in Zoom. So just click on the Q&A icon on screen and one of our technical specialists will be more than happy to help. Now, before I move on, I just want to highlight that I'll be using a specialist demo account today. So we've been working hard behind the scenes to develop a specific Compass Plus account with dummy data that's representative of a specialist setting. So as I'm using a demo account today that isn't connected to a real school, you may spot a few differences between what you see on screen when you're logged into Compass Plus and what you see in my demo account. So although there might be a slight difference in what you see, the core functionality that I'll be demonstrating today remains the same. Now, when we're designing, or when we were designing this webinar, I should say, we knew it would be very difficult to write a specific definition of what vulnerable means. So we thought it would be more relevant to provide some examples of vulnerable groups instead. So as I'm sure you'll all agree, this list here, it isn't exhaustive, and you may have groups of your own that you can add in here too. So last academic year, this webinar only focused on learners in SEND settings. However, we've acknowledged that learners with SEND are just one of the groups that you may consider as vulnerable, as is reflected in this slide. So you can see there are four groups highlighted in bold. That's to flag that in Compass Plus, there are built-in filters for each of these characteristics. So across all of our reporting functionality, it allows you to focus on data for learners with these specific characteristics. Now, I'll come back to these filters during the demo as part of today's session. So here are the learning objectives for today. Now, don't forget you can ask questions at any time using the Q&A. And towards the end of the session, I'll show you the Compass Plus Help Centre. Now, this is where you can find guidance and resources to help you fully utilize Compass Plus functionality. So this webinar has been primarily designed for Compass Plus users in a specialist setting, careers leaders, SENCOs, careers advisors, and pastoral teams, for example. Essentially, those colleagues who are involved with supporting vulnerable learners and have access and use Compass Plus. So we appreciate that the number of vulnerable learners in mainstream settings is also starting to increase. So everything I'm going to walk through today in today's webinar is also applicable to how you might use Compass Plus in a mainstream setting too. Now, very briefly, for those of you who might be joining today and you don't know what Compass Plus is, or you just need a quick reminder, Compass Plus itself is a free digital product recommended by the Department for Education, and then that enables you to benchmark, track, and report on your careers provision right down to individual learner level. Now, Compass Plus, it's available to most schools, sixth forms, and specialist settings in England. So Compass Plus, it integrates with a range of management information systems, and this then provides a secure and scalable platform that performs effectively as a product usage, excuse me, also grows as well. So Compass Plus, it integrates with other digital products or partner platforms, as we call them, like Unifrog or Moresby. So if you're already using something like that in your setting, you can often use them with Compass Plus too, without, importantly, duplicating the effort. Now, my demo today will walk through this functionality here, looking at how it can help you target and support vulnerable learners. Towards the end of the session, we'll be focusing on the learner profile, and I'll show you how powerful creating a meaningful learner profile, how powerful it can really be, and when this information can be shared to support careers conversations and provide additional support. Now, just in case you're not familiar with the acronym, FSQ stands for Future Skills Questionnaire, and OnTrack Plus is a new feature that was released in early February. So, OnTrack Plus, it's been designed to help educators identify emergent supporting needs for their learners in years 7 to 11, strengthening sustained engagement and post 16 transition. Now, this quote, everyone, from the DFE, it aligns very much with our intent to show you how to create, access, and share a meaningful learner profile. As it says there, not only does the learner profile act as a record of all the careers activities learners have been involved with, but it also allows them to use this information themselves when they leave your institution to support their next steps. Okay, great. So let's dive into the demo, everyone, and start with the Future Skills Questionnaire. So just going to go into my demo account. So from our homepage here, we can either click on the View Reports section here, button, this little blue button, or we can use the main navigation bar on the left here and click into Questionnaires and then Future Skills Questionnaire. Now, to maximize the time we have available today, I'm only going to focus on some neat features in FSQ reporting that can help you identify and target learners that may require additional support. So, if you want to learn how to plan, prepare, or deliver an FSQ session, please do watch our dedicated FSQ 5 Steps to Success webinar, which is housed on YouTube. Or, alternatively, we have a bunch of resources available on the Compass Plus Help Center to support you with this as well. Now, I'll show you where you can then find these on the Compass Plus Help Center a little bit later on. So, once you've decided what version of the questionnaire will be most appropriate for your learners, and you've then generated the links and you've shared these with your learners, the learners have also then completed the questionnaire, ideally as part of a meaningful careers conversation in their responses. They are now saved automatically into Compass Plus. So, if I just scroll down, so you can see here there are 5 tabs along the top. The first tab is where you generate and manage your links. The second tab is the summary report. So I just click into the summary report. Now, the summary report gives you an overview of the positive and negative responses to each question from each key stage questionnaire type that the learners have then also completed. Now, you can use the summary report to see, for example, the questions that had the least positive responses per cohort, then use the data to plan careers activities that would address these particular needs. So if I just select the current academic year, so 25-26, the careers, knowledge and skills section, it's also selected by default. So you can then select essential skills if you so wish. So I'm going to leave careers, knowledge and skills. And then we're also going to apply a filter by positive responses. So for each key stage version of the questionnaire that's been completed, we can then see at a glance the lowest scoring questions. Now, please be aware that if all of the learners in your setting complete the send version, there'll be no data displayed here for this particular report. The summary report only pulls through responses from the key stage versions of the FSQ. Now, the next tab is the detailed report. So the detailed report, everyone, this provides you with a more in-depth analysis of the responses from each key stage questionnaire type that the learners have completed. So you can use the detailed report to view a learner drill down for each question, allowing you to then identify which responses were selected by individual learners. Now, again, the detailed report only pulls through responses from key stage versions of the questionnaire. So you could just click into each of the filters at the top to review the responses per questionnaire type or per year group as well. So if we then looked at, for example, GCSE years and then year 11, scroll down, we can see the data that's representative of the GCSE years and year 11. Now, the fourth tab is the send report. Now, the data displayed in this tab is really valuable as it provides a more in-depth analysis of the learner responses to just the send questionnaire. So the send report follows a very similar structure to the detailed report, but the only difference is that you filter by key stage. So you filter by key stage instead of questionnaire type. And this is because the send version of the Future Skills Questionnaire, this remains the same across all of the year groups. Now we can see here that we have learners at Key Stage 3, 4, and 5 have completed the send version of the questionnaire. Now let's take a closer look at the FSQ visualizations for the send report. So the visualization here on the left, this shows the number of learners who responded to the questions mostly negatively, mixed, or mostly positively. As we haven't applied a key stage filter at this moment, this shows responses across all key stages. So excuse me, and then therefore for all the learners that have completed the send questionnaire. Now we can very quickly click on any bar to see the learner drill down. So let's have a look at the 25 that have answered mostly negatively. So just clicking into that bar, if I then scroll down, we can see these learners. I can then, if I want to sort by the pupil premium, have the premium learners at the top, and this then highlights how this particular characteristic group have then responded to the questionnaire. The learner drill down might be as you'd expected. So this information below might be as you'd expected, and you know your learners better than anybody. So you may be able to predict who would have answered the questionnaire mostly negatively. Then this is actually it's a good start because it helps you identify learners that may require additional support to discuss next steps and then aspirations after education. Now, another feature here is the ability to be able to create a custom group directly from this learner drill down, and it's as easy as clicking a button. So if we click on the create a custom group, okay, then you would just enter the relevant information in here for the group title. Once you've got everything in here, you'd scroll all the way down to the bottom and then you would click save. Now, custom groups, they're a great way to target provision and address learners' needs after we've walked through FSQ reporting. I'll be moving on to show you where to manage custom groups within Compass Plus. Now, if we apply the key stage filter, just going to scroll up here. So I'm going to apply the key stage filter. So I'm going to apply to key stage 4. Now, the data in here now, the data displayed in the visualization, it changes. So it's great here now that we can see that 20 learners have answered mostly positively to these questions. Now, let's move on to the question by question analysis on the right-hand side here. And again, we'll still focus on our learners in Key Stage 4. So a top tip for you here is to apply the highlight questions filter, okay, at the top, and then let's select the lower scoring questions. So finding out what questions these are and review and learn responses to these questions, it's a really good place to start when analyzing FSQ data. So let's have a look at question 9 here, for example. So what we've got is, have you learned something about new jobs by working in or visiting different places? So if we then click the bar chart, okay, now we see here a pop-up box has appeared with different response options that correspond and have then corresponding emojis attached to them for that particular question. All you then need to do is just click on the relevant response to see the learners that have selected that response. So if we selected the I haven't worked in or visited places yet, you can then see who these learners are. Now, if you want to select a different response, you could just click the plus sign in the bottom corner here, and then you would select the response that you want to look at. Now, for this one, we're going to sort this information by tutor group. So we can quickly then drill down to see if any of the year 11s haven't worked haven't worked in or visited any workplaces yet. Okay. So we can then scroll along, filter by the tutor group. So we're looking at year 11s. And it's important here, or this could be particularly important, as these learners will be leaving our setting at the end of the academic year. And we might want to prioritize supporting them to gain experience of the workplace. So if we wanted to create a custom group for these learners, okay, we would just click the create a custom group, and then we could enter the relevant information for these 11 learners. Now, again, let's just call this support group. Okay, and then we would just deselect those learners that were not year 11. So it was these first 4. So we're now left with Callum, Elliot, Gavin, and Morag. Now, once you've got this group created, you would just click save, and then that would be housed in your custom group section. Okay, so now the green bar here at the top of the questions by question analysis visualization, if I just hover over it, this is a great way to see how many learners have completed the send version of the Future Skills questionnaire. So with the Key Stage 4 filter applied, you just hover over the bar to see how many learners have submitted FSQ responses and the percentage of generated links that this equates to. So in our example, it's great here to see that 100% of the links were generated and shared with learners, and they have then been accessed, and the corresponding questionnaires have been completed. So we generated 50 links. We have 50 learners have completed them, and the responses are now in Compass Plus. Now, the average score here at the right-hand side, so we can see the average score percentage shows that these 50 learners have answered 59% of the questions positively. And there are, if you wanted to, there are additional filters you can use in the question by question analysis visualization, where it allows you to compare groups and then filter further by gender or pupil premium. So if we just quickly had a look, if I just filtered onto pupil premium learners here, okay. So the light grey bars, everyone, these indicate a yes as the learners are pupil premium. So my biggest piece of advice here with the send report, as with Compass Plus reporting, is to just go in and have a play with it. Select different cohorts, apply different filters, and then sort the learner drill down by gender, tutor group, pupil premium. But make time to explore the send report to help you identify learners with vulnerable characteristics who may require some targeted intervention and support. Now, the last tab is custom reporting. So this is a real game changer. Okay, so when it comes to identifying, also the identification process, I should say, as within this section, you can create your own reports by selecting specific questions or filtering responses, and you can also download the data you may need into Excel as well. Now, we do have a feature focus session specifically on analyzing FSQ data and the actions that you might want to take based on the learner responses. The recording, it's available via the Compass Plus Help Center. So for today's session, I'm just going to show you the basic functionality for the custom reporting section. So we will choose the send questionnaire from the drop-down box. We'll then also choose the 25-26 academic data. Okay, so from the select questions drop-down box here, just going to scroll up a little bit. So you can then choose to look at responses for all of the questionnaire, or all of the questions, I should say, by selecting the select all. Okay, I will just deselect that as well now. So we can also select questions for just specific sections, so essential skills for life and work. And then with the send version, we've also got the career planning section as well. So don't forget, with the send version, this has that third section as well. So additionally, to selecting every question or all the questions in the New Skills questionnaire, we can also select specific questions. Now, a top tip here is for you to print out the questions for each of the questionnaires that the learners are going to complete in your setting, and circle any questions that you feel are particularly relevant to your career strategy, your strategic plan, or close to your settings priorities. So for my example, I'm interested in learner responses to questions that refer to their next steps and then plans for the future as well. So I'm going to look at question 10. I'm going to look at question 16, and I'm going to also look at question 20. So question 10 was looking at, do you have any ideas about what you might do for work in the future? Question 16 is, do you feel positive when you think about your future? And question 20 is asking, do you have a career plan or vocational profile with actions or goals attached? Now, once we've selected the questions as for us to analyze, we can then have a look at the data set underneath here. Now, if I just scroll along, if I hover over the green symbols here, each one, when you hover over it, it lets you know what the question is that we have selected. So, for example, Question 10 and 16, I've chosen these ones as it's about sort of vocational profiles. And question 20, sorry, the question 20 is vocational profiles. So it allows me to analyze that data. Now, I will go to come back to see these again later when I show you the learner profile. So once you've selected the relevant questions for your custom report, you can then filter the data further by clicking the upside down triangles next to each of the column headers. Or at this stage, you can just choose to download the entire report as it is, or also create a custom group of learners who are displayed in this data set or this report underneath. Now, the way we do that is if I click into Actions, we could then download the report, and the report will download as an Excel spreadsheet onto your computer. And it's great that Compass Plus gives you the option to review the FSQ data in Compass Plus or create reports and explore data in Excel instead. So you could then just go to the approach that you really feel most comfortable with. The other option is that you can then create a custom group. And the custom group learners will then also be displayed in the report as well. So again, you just click create a custom group. You'd simply fill in the relevant details here from the pop-ups and then scroll all the way down to the bottom. And then you would just click save, and the custom group, everyone will then be added automatically to the group section in Compass Plus. Now, we will take a closer look at the group section in Compass Plus after we've explored On Track Plus and some ways in which the feature can then help you identify the emergent support needs for learners in years 7 to 11, then strengthening sustained learner engagement and post-16 transition. So I'm just going to click home on the navigation bar. And then from here, I'm going to click into Learner and then into On Track Plus. So we can think about using On Track Plus to support vulnerable learners in 4 stages. So the first stage is about the process of considering and defining vulnerability. You can do this with ease in On Track Plus by filtering learner data by a range of indicators. Now, On Track Plus indicators are learner data points. And these are these things that can be used to support users' professional judgment when identifying learners who may require additional support. So we've got our automatic indicators here. So we've got persistence absence, persistent lateness, free school meals, pupil premium, EHCP, SEN, and a DACI. So we've got each of those, and each are derived from learner data your education setting provides to Compass Plus from your MIS, which is your Management Information System. They will then reflect data imported into Compass Plus from your MIS daily. They cannot be edited in Compass Plus. Now, the manual indicators below here. So we've got multiple school moves, suspension, young carer, academic achievement below standard, and then looked after child. These are additional indicators that can be updated and maintained by Compass Plus users. So the manual indicators are optional, but if used, it's essential to check manual indicators regularly to ensure that they are kept up to date. Now, as you can see, if I just scroll down, once I select an indicator, the corresponding column displays in the table below. So if I just scroll along here, we can see all of the indicators that I have selected. So we can then start to sort and filter the functionality next to each of the column headers, and then it allows us to refine the data further. So for my example, I'm going to deselect a few filters and just have sort of 3 automatics and 3 manuals. So I'm going to deselect persistent lateness. Deselect that one. I'm going to deselect pupil premium and a DACI as well. Okay. I'm then going to deselect suspension, and I am going to deselect achievement below academic standard. Okay, I'm then going to apply a filter on my free school meals. So I'm just going to apply the filter for yes there. Okay. And then I'm going to sort by persistent lateness. Persistent absence, sorry. So I'm going to do a sort by that to have those at the top. And then I'm going to look to see which learners have been identified as having 5 indicators on track. Okay, so what we can see here now, I've got 13 learners in my table. I might want to flag all of them for intervention, or I might want to create a custom group for these learners. More on that shortly, everyone. Both of which will help with stage 2 of the process, which is communication. So clearly communicating with the wider staff where appropriate, as in, pastoral teams, heads of year, SLT, etc., about learners who may be considered vulnerable after reviewing On Track Plus data. Now, if you want to get a holistic view of the learner's engagement with careers, including On Track Plus learner level information, you could just click on the view profile in the On Track Plus actions column. So we will let's choose Dale, okay? So Dale is in year 11, okay? So Dale is in year 11, so we might want to prioritize him, seeing that he's going to be leaving at the end of the academic year. So we could click on to Dale's profile. So here we're viewing Dale's learner profile now, which we'll explore in more detail later. But you can see the 5th tab here along the top is On Track Plus. Now we can see a list of indicators and the status here as well. We can then also choose to select any manual indicators that might apply to Dale. So we could select multiple moves. And then if we wanted to scroll at the bottom, and we can add in here any notes. Okay. And in the flag for intervention section, we have then an audit trail of when we have flagged or unflagged Dale for intervention. So let's go back to the On Track Plus section. Okay. So once you've identified learners who may be at risk of disengaging with education or becoming neat, stage 3 is to do something. So this is the plan and deliver an activity to them. So there's a handy toolkit from Bath University available on the resource directory for a little bit of inspiration and support around this one. So being able to create a custom group from here also helps. And once you've refined the data, selected the relevant indicators and filters, etc., you can then just click up here to create a custom group for the learners. And then you just enter and amend the relevant information. So here we have our create custom group. Enter the relevant information as we've already demonstrated. Scroll down to the bottom, click save, and then that would appear in your custom group section, which we can look at later. Okay, the 4th and final step in the On Track Plus process is tracking progress. So it's identifying learners who've been flagged and unflagged for intervention, what's contributed to this, what support they've received, to enable that change. And we'll explore the learner profile and learner report towards the end of the demo. But Compass Plus allows you to share a whole careers learner journey with a learner, allowing them to take this information with them onto their next destination. So in the interest of time, I've just introduced you to On Track Plus today there, but please do register for our On Track Plus in Compass Plus webinar on the 25th of March, where you can learn more about the feature and how to use it effectively in your setting. So just going home on the navigation bar. So as I mentioned earlier, custom groups are a great way to help you manage and deliver targeted support to learners. Now, you can add learners from different year groups to a custom group. And when a learner is added to a custom group, the group will automatically display in their individual learner profile. Now, we have a feature focus session on custom groups, which explores how to use them effectively in your setting. So I won't go into too much detail today, but it will be valuable for you to see how easy it is to create and manage custom groups. So from the main navigation bar on the left-hand side here, we're going to go into Learner and then into Groups. Now, at the top here, we've got the tab that says Create a New Group. So if we just click on Create a New Group, A pop-up now will appear where you can then start to enter the details that are required to create your new group. So we're going to give the group a name. So for my example, I'm going to call it, let's call it Next Step Support. So Next Steps Support. Okay, so that's our group name. And really, everyone, just to point out here, a quick reminder, do be mindful what you call your custom group at this stage, as this will be displayed in the individual learner profile. Now, once you've given your group a name, you can then start to add your learners. So don't forget, you can add learners across cohorts to a custom group. The easiest way to do this is to type their names into the box and then select who you want to add to that custom group. So let's go with Morag. So we had Morag. This is from our earlier information that we found um, when I was looking through the data. So we'll go Callum Owen. Um, we can also, at this point, if we wanted to, we can also use these checkbox filters as well. So, for example, if we just wanted to add learners with specific characteristics, we could just make sure that the correct characteristic box, easy for me to say, is ticked. So if I then deselect these boxes here and just leave the characteristic box ticked, if I then just click into the box, I can then scroll down and add in any particular characteristic group that I want to. So let's say I want to add Pupil Premium 10. So we're going to add in Pupil Premium 10. You'll notice now that the membership start date is the date that you added the learner to the group, and the membership end date is the end of the academic year. You can amend these membership start date and end dates for any learner by clicking into the relevant field. So if I want to just edit for Callum, I'm just going to edit the end date, and I'm just going to change his end date to the 1st of April. So I'm going to end it at the 1st of April. Once you're happy with the information that you've entered for your custom group, you would then just click Save. And then that group is added to your custom group section. Now, to manage your custom groups, you would just select the custom groups from the group type filter. So if we then just do the drop down, click into custom groups, you can view the number of activities associated with a custom group by clicking on the first icon here. So we can see what groups are attached to a particular activities are attached to a particular group. By selecting the pencil icon to the right here, we can then edit the custom group. And if you wanted to click the trash can icon, you can then delete the custom group as well. Okay, so moving on now, next in our 5 steps to success framework is Compass Plus reporting. So Compass Plus reporting can be broadly categorized into the following areas. So we've got evaluations. This includes the Compass evaluation and the internal leadership review, future skills questionnaire reporting, learner reporting, activities reporting, and careers partners. Now, you can engage with each type of reporting to evidence and identify support for vulnerable learners. So if you want to learn more about any of these in more detail, do join our next Compass Plus data and reporting webinar, and I'll show you where you can register for this at the end of the session. We've also, remember, got feature focus sessions specifically for each type of reporting that they're also available to watch on YouTube. And my demo today will just outline where you can find these reporting features in product and some key ways in which you can then use them. So let's start with evaluations. Excuse me. So just selecting evaluations here, everyone. And you can see here that this is where, oh, excuse me, this is where you will find your Compass evaluation and your internal leadership review. So just clicking on our Compass evaluation. To view your results for your Compass evaluations, you just scroll down to the previously completed or in progress Compass evaluation section. So this one here, and then you can just click on view results. And if we just head straight to the data visualization tab, we can see at a glance your performance against the benchmarks. So you might look at this and kind of say, are there any in particular that align with the support provided for vulnerable groups, i.e., Gatsby benchmark 8 or maybe benchmark 3? And for a more in-depth breakdown of your results, you just go back to your results tab, okay? And then down here, you would just click on results. So if we went to benchmark 3, and if we clicked our little down arrow, which expands the data, you can then see the questions and the achievement status, plus links to resources to help you achieve 100% across all of the benchmarks. So you can see where you're achieving, and then you've got your resources down here at the bottom as well. Now, to download and share your results, you would just click the green download button here, okay, at the top. So you can download your compass evaluation report as a PDF. This includes the data visualization and the benchmark breakdown, or you can download your results as an Excel spreadsheet, and then you can see the answers given to each of the evaluation questions. If you wanted to, you can share your results, okay, and you will be able to here generate a link that you can then share with anyone who has access to the internet. They don't actually need to be a registered Compass Plus user to access the link and view your Compass evaluation results. So next in evaluation is the internal leadership review. So on the navigation bar, clicking into internal leadership review. So again, as you can see from this screen, the internal leadership review page is very similar to the Compass evaluation section. Now, this is intentional by design, everyone. It's to help provide consistency across the product and also enhance the experience of using Compass Plus. So viewing your responses also works in a similar way to your Compass evaluations. You would just click view responses, excuse me, in the previous or progress careers impact internal leadership review section, which I'm on here. So click view responses, and the key areas of focus on the visualization here, they cover the keystone themes of the careers impact maturity model, and they're specific sub themes that then will directly align with supporting vulnerable groups. So we've got themes 2.1 that would support with it, 2.2 and then 2.5 as well. Now, if we scroll then further down, we can view all the responses by clicking on the View All Responses button here. And then we can then start to hone in on other themes or sub-themes that align with the support offer. We can then engage with gentle inquiry into your education settings, the position on the maturity model, and what you can then do to progress or maintain this position. So just scrolling down to show you what these look like. So this allows you to see your current education position setting on the maturity model, and then also how you can then make progress as well. Now, as you can see here at the top of the page, you can download and share the information as well. So this functionality is available for the internal leadership review, the same as it is for your Compass evaluations, and then for all your responses as well. And if we just go back into the insights section here, again, we've got the download button, so you can then only download your internal leadership review as a PDF. Okay, so now we're going to have a quick look at activities reporting. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have a whole feature focus session on this one, so I won't go into too much detail today on it. So from the home page here, we have access to activities reporting by either clicking on find out more from the activities tile, or we can select activities on the navigation bar, and then we can go into your activities. And then from here, we've got our activities reporting. So as with all of the reporting functionality in Compass Plus, there are always a range of filters that you can select here at the top. So some of the filters to highlight, you might want to highlight the status, okay? You can then review the planned, completed, and cancelled activities with this particular filter. Is this activity for a parent or a learner? Again, you can then review activities that have engaged with parents or carers. We could look at meets PAL requirements. So here you can then review activities that comply with the provider access legislation. And you can then start to drill down into specific characteristics to see how many learners with a particular characteristic was added to a particular activity. So you could then start to select things like pupil premium, free school meals, EAL, SEN. And if you want to then use activities reporting to monitor attendance data, the attendance filters are also then very important. And by selecting the relevant filters, you can then start to create reports that can evidence who attended activities and then who didn't. And then this enables you to have those targeted follow-ups with learners to make sure that they are not missing out. So what we can then do is we can select the total number of learners invited, the number of learners that attended, and the number of learners that were absent. Now, once you've selected all of the reporting filters that you want, you can then use the sort and the filter functionality in this table below to further refine your data. So to sort our data here, let's click the double arrows in one of the column headers. So we'll click for parent and learner column. We will click our double arrows. Okay. If we then also in the filter status, if we filter to just completed activities. So sorting this data, this can then help you to review the progress and performance at a glance. It can allow you to sort and filter functionality next to each of the column headers as well. And this is also available in Learner Reporting and FSQ Custom Reporting. Now, if you prefer to sort and filter data into Excel, you can download these activities into a spreadsheet. You would just click the download button at the top of the screen here. A pop-up will appear like this, letting you know the data that you've selected to download, and then you just click download report to then continue. Now, you can only utilize activities reporting once you've actually added activities into Compass Plus. So you can enter activities directly into Compass Plus. You can populate activities into our activities upload template and then upload them into Compass Plus as well. And if you use a partner platform like Unifrog or Moresby, you can also upload activities from there into Compass Plus too. Now, there are templates and guidance available on Compass Plus Help Center that walk you through the different ways that you can enter activities into Compass Plus. Now, we always encourage everyone a whole setting approach to using Compass Plus. For example, it's not just a careers leader's responsibility to enter information into the product. So if appropriate in your setting, you could ask wider teaching and support staff to enter activities directly into Compass Plus themselves. You know, you get your careers advisor, pastoral teams, and even your Senko to help as well, for example. Now, this approach is particularly handy so wider staff can record one-to-one interventions with learners straight into Compass Plus, personal guidance interviews, for example, or any pastoral support meetings that have been delivered. Now, if you're a careers advisor, if your careers advisor, I should say, is employed externally, that you can then also add them in as a careers partner into Compass Plus, and this will make it easier for them to assign themselves to any personal guidance meetings that they then want to record in Compass Plus. So at that point, let's move on to careers partners now so that I can show you the advanced search functionality in this section. And it's also included under the umbrella of Compass Plus reporting. So to access the careers partners database, you can either click in the find out more tile on the home screen here, or you can go directly to the navigation bar and go to careers partners from here as well. Okay. So I want you to think about careers partners, everyone, as your little black book. It's that safe and scalable database where you can record all the different employers, organizations, and agencies that deliver careers activities to your learners. Now, adding a careers partner is easy. You can either add their details directly into Compass Plus, or you can use the upload template instead. So just clicking, I'm just going to move this over here, just clicking into the green actions button at the top here, you can see the different options that you've got available to you. So we recommend adding your own education setting as a careers partner, certainly if you deliver enterprise activities or enrichment opportunities to your learners and then record these in Compass Plus as well. Now, if you feel more comfortable reviewing data in a spreadsheet, you can then section as well. Now, we're not going to download any data today. Instead, we're just going to focus on the advanced search functionality. So I will just scroll down a little bit and click into advanced search. So you can use the different filters here at the top. So you could use the organization type filter here, and you could have named contact filters that you can then check to that you have a broad representation of careers partners recorded in Compass Plus. The advanced search function, it helps you to identify any gaps in careers partner coverage, and it also then helps you support that targeted employer engagement as well. So once you've clicked into the organization type, you'll see numbers in brackets after the name or the title. And in this example, it denotes the number of each organization type you have recorded in Compass Plus. The same applies for organization sector. Okay, so again, if we hover over here, we can see that we've got one careers partner recorded in Compass Plus within the creative arts sector. Now, I also want to highlight the third filter here as well, which is the PAL compliance. And you can quickly see here how many careers partners you have that deliver PAL compliant activities. So if I just select yes, I can scroll down and I can see the partners that do that. So when you've selected a filter, the relevant filter will display down here in the data set. Now, another key filter to highlight is the contact available for. So if I just clear all, in the contact available for, we can see what businesses have said they can then provide support for. So filtering careers partners by activity is an easy way to sense check that you have organizations and employers that can deliver a range of important careers activities to your learners. So when we think about careers partners, it's also important to note that you can use the Future Skills Questionnaire data to support building a diverse careers partners database. So you can analyze your FSQ responses to see the industries and the sectors that learners are most interested in. Then you would use this as a checklist almost to make sure that each of these areas are represented by a careers partner who you have then got recorded in Compass Plus. Okay, so we're now on to the final step in our 5 steps of success framework. So the learner profile. So this is one of the most valuable assets in Compass Plus, as the learner profile brings together an individual learner's whole career's learning journey in one place. It includes their activities they've got planned or have already completed. It shows their interests and destinations if that information has already been entered manually into Compass Plus. It also, everyone shows their future skills questionnaire responses and their at risk of NEET information too via the On Track Plus tab. So it's a really useful part of the product. So you can also choose to download and share the information with the learner or appropriate adults who may be supporting them by utilizing the learner report function. Now, from the main navigation bar, we're going to go to learner and then we're going to go to learner report. So I'm going to use the search bar and look for a learner called Zane. Okay, so we've got Zane here. Okay, we would then just click on the view profile on the left. So this is what an individual learner profile looks like. So you can see all of the different tabs along how the learner is tracking against the Gatsby benchmarks. You can see their planned and completed and cancelled activities, plus their parental engagement activities as well. Interests and destinations. This is where you would manually record learners' interests and destinations information and their alumni contact information before they leave your setting, just to get to the alumni. So this is where you would house the alumni information. We could click into questionnaires. Okay, this tab allows you to see the learner responses to the Future Skills questionnaire. Now, a top tip here as well, which is really great, is that you can toggle between the answers only at the top here, and this makes it a little bit easier for you to then view their responses. We've also got personal information. Now, the data in the personal information tab here, this is pulled through from Compass Plus from your management information system. And as I mentioned earlier, this tab is for On Track Plus. Okay, so On Track Plus, everyone, it helps educators to identify, excuse me, emergent support needs for learners in years 7 to 11, therefore then strengthening that sustained learner engagement and also the post-16 transition. So please, as another reminder, do join us for our webinar on the 25th of March to explore On Track Plus in more detail. Now, for my example here, I want to just use some of the information in Zane's learner profile to support a personal guidance interview I'm going to have with him. So I want to have a copy of his FSQ responses, and I want to use these to prompt the discussion and support my understanding of his thoughts about his future, his aspirations, and his next step. So from Zane's learner profile, I want to generate a learner report. To help me do this, I just click on the Generate Learner Report button. I'm then going to click on Download Learner Report. I'm now going to click the drop down arrow. This allows me to customize the report and only select the information I want to include. So as I mentioned earlier, I only want Zane's FSQ responses and I only want to look at the current academic year as well. So I'm going to tick, or I would tick or untick the relevant boxes to customize this report. So I'm going to deselect activities and then going to deselect interests and then the destinations as well. And from the Future Skills questionnaire section, I'm just going to select the most recent questionnaire. I would then click confirm. Compass Plus will then generate Zane's learner report for me, showing just the information that I've selected, and that will then download as a PDF onto my computer. Now, this is what that would then look like. Okay, so I'm going to now print this out prior to Zane's personal guidance appointment, and then I'm going to review his responses to help guide the discussion and help identify any further advice, guidance, or targeted support that he might require. Now, using the learner report in this way, it's really and it's an effective approach when supporting learners with EHCPs during their annual review. You could also customize and print off the learner report to include their vocational profile too. Okay, so back to Compass Plus. Okay, now when I click the Generate Learner Report button, you may have also noticed that there's an email learner report option too. So if I just click onto this and click the email learner report, this works for everyone in exactly the same way as the download function, as you can then also customize the report and only include information that you want. The only difference is that a pop-up box would appear here with the learner's email address. Now, the email address on the screen here, this comes from your management information system. So if you need to send the report to a different email address for that particular learner, you can enter it here, but you must verify that the alternative email address belongs to the learner. Now, if you're sending the learner report to someone other than the learner, you must ensure that you speak to the learner to obtain their consent to share their information. Now, you can also email learner reports in bulk. Now, I'm not going to go into that now as I'm mindful of time, but there is a Help Center article that walks you through this in the learner data section. Okay, that is everyone. That's the end of the demo. So I'm just going to go back to the slide deck now and start to draw things to a close. Now, before I move on to talk about additional Compass Plus training and support, I just want to cover this one here. So this slide highlights all of the developments to Compass Plus that consider the needs of users who support vulnerable groups, users in specialist settings and users in mainstream settings too. So starting at the bottom there, our customer experience manager, Frances Jenkins, she facilitates our SEND working group and also has worked hard, tirelessly hard, to ensure all our training materials, including Help Centre articles and resources, that they apply to users in specialist settings. Now, the actions in green, they've been completed or are currently live. And as I mentioned at the start of the webinar, I've used a Compass Plus demo account today that's more representative of a specialist setting. So we have specific resources on the Help Centre to support delivering FSQ to learners with SEND. But these are also applicable for learners with other vulnerable characteristics too, who might be more suited to completing the SEND version of the questionnaire. Now, the responses across all versions of the Future Skills Questionnaire, they were updated at the start of the academic year. And this was influenced by user feedback and engagement from users who support vulnerable learners. So, as always, a massive thank you to you all for those who have been or who are involved with projects the CEC run to help tackle the disadvantage. The two actions at the top in red, everyone, they are in the scoping stage. So we are reviewing all our training content to see if there's an appetite for a feature focus on delivering FSQ to learners with SEND. And we are currently working with the product team to recommend some developments to Compass Plus around identifying those learners' individual support needs with their learner profile. Now, if you're keen to learn more about Compass Plus, please do join me for another Compass Plus training webinar this term. I'll show you where you can register for these webinars just in a moment, but don't forget you can watch any of the previous webinar recordings back via our Compass Plus training playlist on YouTube, and we also have our feature focus series on YouTube now as well. So if you've joined today, another reminder that you will be sent a link to our YouTube playlist in the post-session comms. Now, I just want to take a moment to highlight the On Track Plus in Compass Plus webinar we'll be delivering on Wednesday, the 25th of March at 3:30 to 4:30. Now, as mentioned earlier, the On Track Plus feature was released in Compass Plus early February. It's been designed to help educators identify emergent support needs for learners in years 7 to 11 and strengthening the sustained learner engagement and post-16 transition. And when I show you the Compass Plus Help Centre, you'll see where you can register for this webinar to learn about On Track Plus and how you can then use it effectively in your setting. Now, here's a quick overview of further support and guidance that's available for you all. You can access the Compass Plus Help Centre when you're logged into Compass Plus, but you can also, everyone, you can also access it online. It's hosted on a public URL, which means anyone with the internet can view the Help Centre articles. Now, I'm just going to show you what this looks like. So to go to our Help Centre online, you would just open up a browser and head to the Compass Plus Help Centre. You would then click on the Compass Plus Help Centre link here. Here you will then see all the different sections of the Help Centre. You just then select the title or the article that you wish to view. So if I'm going to have a little look at learner data. So I've scrolled down, I'm going to select learner data. So these are all of the articles, for example, that have been designed to support your understanding of learner data, the learner profile and the learner report. So if I click on a title to view, for example, let's have a look at the how to customize and send or download learner report from the learner profile. This gives you the information on that particular section. Now, to register for another Compass Plus webinar, you just click on the Register for Compass Plus training link from the Help Centre landing page there. And then you would just click on whichever webinar you want to register for. So if I just scroll down a little bit here, here's where you can find or you can register for our upcoming On Track Plus webinar. Now, if I then just scroll back up, a top tip here for Help Centre is to use the search bar up the top here. So if there is something in particular that you need help with, all you would then need to do is just pop the word or the phrase in here, and all of the articles that contain that term will then be displayed. So I'm going to type the word watch into that search bar now so I can show you where you can watch previous webinar recordings. Okay. If I just scroll down, click on the watch previous webinar recordings here, scroll down a little bit, you can then simply click on the title of the webinar or recording that you want to watch. Now, you can also access our feature focus sessions too by clicking on this link here on the left-hand side. And then you can either click on the title of the feature focus session, housed below here, or you can click on the whole playlist link here at the top as well. Now, if you ever run into any technical difficulties, you can always raise a support request with one of our technical specialists from the Help Centre too. So just click the Submit a Request link up the top here, scroll down. You would then complete the form with the relevant information, scroll all the way to the bottom, and then you would click Submit at the bottom of the page here. Okay, so I'm just going to finish off running through the support offer here. So next is the resource directory. Here you can quickly find world-class, trusted, high-quality resources to help you plan, grow, and achieve. You can complete a range of short courses on the Careers and Enterprise Academy. And finally, you please do reach out to your Compass Plus champions, your ECs, or your hub if you have any questions about using Compass Plus effectively in your setting. Now, thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. A lot to get through there for you all. And I'd really be grateful if you could just take 2 minutes to complete our feedback form. Just scan the QR code there, or you can type the link into your web browser and share your thoughts and feedback about today's session. This information that you provide us with is so important as it helps us to develop our training offer, and then we really, really do appreciate it. So I look forward to seeing you again soon on another webinar. Goodbye.